What's the difference between code and data migration?
Yeah, so this is all about code. Code is nothing but you deal with metadata. You deal with metadata, right? So let's say object that you have with you is converted in your XML kind of a format. Anything that you do, you create a field, you create an object, you write a validation rule, you write a workflow rule, you write a process builder, everything is represented in a metadata, which is nothing but your XML format. I'll show you when we basically discuss this code migration in detail, when we do the process of fetching it and deploying it, and I'll show you. So this is metadata. Whenever you talk about code, it is nothing but you're referring to the metadata that is being saved by the Salesforce to basically move those changes from one org to another org. They use that metadata to show our changes in our org also. That is code migration. To answer your second question, which is nothing but your data migration also is on the same line. All right. Again, you have sandboxes. If we have multiple sandboxes, there could be some data that you want to move from one org to another org, be it something that you have configured certain records for your functionality. You want to move this changes from, or you want to move this data, proper data records, data/records from one org to another org. That is where your data migration comes in. When I say data, you can think that we are talking about records. When I say code, we are talking about metadata. When I want to move my records from one org to another org, that is where my data migration comes into picture. When I want to move the record/data from one org to another org, that is where my data migration comes into picture. The second way is if I have a single environment, be it production, be it sandbox, whatever it is, in case if I want to update certain records within that particular environment, I can create records, I can update them, I can delete them. In case if I want to do any of these changes, that is where we basically call it as also a data migration. We are referring to a term called data cleanup. Data cleanup basically comes into picture when you already have a data within that particular environment. That is where when you want to make changes to it or you want to refine the data, that is where you also call it as a data migration. You might ask me, what are the kind of a criteria that we can consider into data cleanup? So if I have, let's say 10,000 records on account object. So now this company, I'm just taking this dummy company as ABC, who is having this application, right? Just for our reference, so that this person is the person who is the client for our company, and he is owning that application. Now, if they have 10,000 records and they are just adding those account records, they have not considered that fact that whether the customer is there or he's an active customer or not, are all the fields filled out or not, is something that they have not looked at for quite a while. Now, what happens there? The volume of accounts in the system is 10,000. Now, for them to basically update them individually, so basically they wanted to make sure that they wanted this data to be clean. When I say data to be clean, they might have certain requirements saying that I want an industry field on account to be populated. So if I take you back to the account record, so let's say if they have 10,000 records on this account object, there might be a chances that there will be certain fields which will not be filled out, right? They wanted to do an exercise to make sure that this data is accurate and they wanted to use it for better use. And at times they might have duplicate accounts. A same record is been entered twice. So let's say if there is a company called, let's say BCD, I'm just taking this random names. There's an account called BCD. When they review the account, they found out that there are two account records in the system. Few of the contacts are connected to it and few of the contacts are connected to a second account. If it is the same company, ideally it is the same company, but the way that we are storing the system, it has been entered twice. Because of that, the person whoever finds this record, right, if they're finding this record, they're attaching all the things related to this company to this record. If some person is using this record, they're attaching it to this. Now what happens? The data that needs to be go to one company is been divided into two, be it contact, be it cases that there is, be it XYZ, whatever it is that we're doing with that particular account, the data has been split. So that is where the company has realized that they wanted to clean up any duplicate records and they wanted to make sure if there are certain fields that are not being populated, they wanted to make sure that those are populated. So that is where the term called data cleanup comes in, where you are basically looking at the data within that OR and making sure that you are correcting that information. For the data cleanup, there would be a requirement that comes in from your client. The reason why I'm saying that there should be a requirement that needs to come from your client is because for me, this BCD, even though if it is appearing twice in my org or in your org, if you have two records, we do not bother because we are not doing any real-time business with that particular information that we have in the org. For the real-time clients, that is where they need to look at the data and they need to provide us an information saying that if there are any duplicates like this, saying that how to identify a duplicate is something that they tell us. They say that you can go by the name and you can go by the account number. If that is same, then you can consider it as a duplicate. Or they might say, okay, if the account name is there, and if their phone number or something website is something that we can take into consideration, we can consider if there are two account records for the same information, that is where we can consider as a duplicate. That is something that our clients gives us. How to identify a duplicate is something that we need to get from our input from our client. Second thing is, once we have that information, for them to process that information, there should be a way to basically extract that information, or there should be a way to see that information. There are a couple of ways to do that. If you want to basically look at the data and come to a conclusion that how to do it, there are a couple of ways. One is you can go with a list view, right? Where in which you can create a list view on account to see how many accounts that we have, and we can look at it one by one, right? So that is the first thing. Second way is to create a report based on the conditions that you have. If they wanted to look at all the account records, or I'm just taking the object as account, so it would be easier for you to understand. It applies for any object. We would create a reports to give an extract to them, and they review them and identify what all things are duplicate. Depending on that, we would proceed with one of the operations that we have, either it is creation, updation, or deletion. Third way is to basically get an extract from the third party tools, be it data loader, be it workbench, be it data loader.io, whatever that thing that you're using. We can extract that information and get that into CSV. Here also we have an option to get that report into CSV.
Hey guys, if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe to SFDC Quest.